this is James, and I'd like to welcome you to the Oracle Outlook for the week starting December the 5th, 2016. This week I'm going to be doing an angel card reading, and the deck that's going to be assisting me for this week's reading is the Life Purpose Oracle cards. They are by Doreen Virtue, and they are published by Hay House. And before I get into the card reading directly, I'd like to share a little bit about the deck selection and experience that I had that I feel is going to be pertinent to this week's reading because it is a connection to last week's reading. So if you checked out last week's reading, the gist or the central message was for us to be taking a look at what it is that we're passionate about, because I was saying at the time last week that there are things going on in the world, either in our personal lives, our own little worlds as I like to call it, or some things that we're seeing in the collective world, the larger world, and there's a lot of things going on that may be touching a part of us that's kind of either in a good way or a challenging way, getting us to look at the things, the issues, the concerns that we are passionate about, and then going one step further, what are we going to do with those things? What are we going to do about those issues, those concerns, those passions, those things that we're fired up about? Because also, too, we were being given guidance about coming up with solutions to the challenges that we are all facing. Not just enough to just point out the challenges, but what are we going to do about it? And then what are we going to be inspired to do? Because I'm getting the feeling like we were being given information about receiving possibility of divine guidance about moving that forward, basically taking your passion, whatever it is you're passionate about, and how can you use that to inspire you to achieve an ideal or a goal. So that was the gist of last week's message, and if you haven't checked it out, I will put a link to that particular video in the description box below if you feel led to check that out. So what it is that after I shoot a video, I kind of just, once it's up and people are looking at it, I kind of get my mindset on the next video. So I start thinking about deck selection. And so I start thinking about, like, well, okay, for instance, this week's video, I start thinking, well, it's going to be an angel card reading. What deck would be good to use? What am I going to be led to use? That kind of energy. But the idea about the passion and being inspired to take some kind of action as a result of that passion, the message just kept reverberating in my head. I kept getting that over and over again. And so, as a result of that, it was making me feel like this week's reading, in part, was going to be a continuation of that reading. So, I had a couple of ideas for two decks, the Life Purpose Oracle cards being one of them, and then another deck. So, I was kind of just going back and forth about which one to use specifically, and I just said, okay, I'm just going to turn this over to Spirit and let Spirit give me the guidance on to which deck would be the most appropriate to use. So, I was in the shower. Literally in the shower. I get lots of guidance when I'm in the shower, particularly when I'm washing my hair. So it was one of those moments. And I was shown a particular card from the Life Purpose Oracle cards, and I was given a download of information. So I want to share the card and the information. So the card is the leadership card, so I'll hold it up. Leadership. And in this particular card, I always go with the image first. So I was looking at the card. Well, when the image was shown to me, it was shown to me in the shower so I could see it in my mind. And first thing I was told about the leadership, the word leadership. And we're being called, or we're being moved into a space, keeping in mind what I said last week, we're being moved into a space about empowerment. This is a time of empowerment. And it's twofold. It's self-empowerment, and it's also about empowering other people. And so I believe that was the guidance we were getting last week with the stars. The stars is one of the cards in the reading, and the stars is all about guidance and direction. So we're being given guidance on how we can empower ourselves, because we could be moving in or experiencing lots of things in our life in which we feel like we don't have power. And so this is a step forward to reclaiming our power, to empowering ourselves rather than looking for external people in authority, external institutions, things of that nature to empower us. It's about how can we empower ourselves. And then also going back to what I said about a passion, how can we take that passion and use it as a way of empowering other people? So I'm seeing that with the leadership. So they were telling me true leadership is about empowering yourself and then taking what it is that you have gained to empower other people. So they showed me that about the leadership card in terms of the title. Then with the image is very interesting because the image has Joan of Arc, and on each side of her are two angels, and one of the angels has a crown above Joan of Arc's head. There's lots of things going on with the symbolism. So first about Joan of Arc. Joan of Arc was a teenager who led or felt divinely guided, or felt like it was her mission or her purpose to create some form of change in the society that was going on at the time. So the thing about Joan of Arc here in this card, sometimes when we're feeling we want to create some change or things are going on and we're feeling like change should take place, one of the first things we might think of is, well, it can't be me. Because, and we put a limitation on it. So Joan of Arc was a teenager when she was inspired to take the actions that she did to help create the change that she created. So first thing could be like, you may be thinking, well, I'm too young, or I'm too old, or I'm a woman, because Joan of Arc was a woman and she led a revolt. She was dressed up as a knight. And so, you know, I think of the idea of like being a woman in a man's world, so to speak, and so you could look at that as a limitation and say, well, I can't do that because I'm a woman, or that's something that a man would do, or I'm moving into a sphere of like that's male energy, or that's what men do, that kind of thing. And this card is like, don't put a limitation on it. You know, you can affect change being who you are with what you've got at your disposal right now. So that was the first thing. The other thing about Joan of Arc is that she was divinely guided. So it could be we're being given the message about like letting spirit lead the way. You know, she's looking up, and so I see this as looking up to heaven for guidance. So again, about divine guidance, but also about having a vision. So what's the vision that you have in terms of the change that you'd like to see happen in the world? Because here's the thing, it may be a vision that only you have. Going with the idea of life purpose, it may be something that you see in the world that only you can address. And here's the other thing about that. Sometimes, when we're talking about empowerment, sometimes we tend to say, well, why doesn't somebody do something about this? Or why doesn't somebody do something about that? Or how come somebody isn't doing something about this? And the answer could be that you are the somebody who needs to do something about that, or could do something about that, because you're the one who sees it. So that's the other thing about this card that I'm seeing with the imagery of Joan of Arc. And so the last thing with Joan of Arc is that she worked closely with Archangel Michael. And so Archangel Michael is one of the angels that's assigned to us to help us become clear on our life purpose. And not just clarity around our life purpose, but taking the next action step. So just with that, we could be given the message of working closely with Archangel Michael. If you are familiar and work with angelic energy, you could work with Archangel Michael, and then you could also, too, work with Archangel Michael in this regard. Because Joan of Arc, after she led the charge for the change that she helped create, she faced persecution. So another thing could be maybe having fear and worry about persecution. For once you put yourself out there and you stand up and speak your truth about whatever the issue is that you're passionate about, or whatever it is that you are inspired to create in terms of change, positive change, you may feel or be concerned about being persecuted for that. And so Archangel Michael is the guardian angel and the angel who protects all of us. So you could be calling upon Archangel Michael not just to help you lead the charge towards the change you'd like to see in the world, but also to about releasing the fears and the worries of persecution as you move forward with that. So I'm seeing that as possibilities with the image. The other thing here to read too, just because this is an angel card reading, is just being in touch with spirit and the angels. You know, and I'm seeing the angel who is holding a crown over Joan of Arc's head. So this could be a time where we get still. We spend time in contemplation. Meditation is good for that. For me anyway, I usually love meditation because The crown could be a pun for a crowning achievement, but it can also be a pun for your crown chakra and getting information and guidance that comes as an aha moment, an epiphany, a download, if you will, through your crown chakra. And as I'm saying that, my crown is tingling, and as those of you who may be familiar with my videos know that I get a lot of angelic energy. I can feel the presence of my angels around my head, and especially specifically my crown chakra. So I'm seeing that. So that was all the information that I got from this card, and I felt it was very pertinent. I usually don't present information from a card beforehand. I usually wait for the card to show up, but I was feeling like this was pertinent because the card could show up in the reading this week, and it may not. Regardless, either way, I just felt like the information was so important that I wanted to share it. Now, it will be interesting to see if the card, because I'm going to put the card in the deck and shuffle and pull cards, that if it shows up again, it's reinforcing what I've just said. But I wanted to share it on the off chance it doesn't show up, because I felt, again, it was very important. And as I'm saying that, I'm getting ready to close what I was saying. The other thing I was feeling, and this is another thing that I usually don't get. When I do readings, I usually look at them as more of a personal nature, something that we can do for ourselves as individuals. And then hopefully it will have a ripple effect. It will go out, because I'm a big believer in that as we work on ourselves, that's energy that ripples out into our interactions with other people, you know, the community, so forth and so on. But I was also being given guidance in relation to a lot of the things that are happening in the world, that this is a time where a lot of us are being activated. I usually don't get a collective message, but I feel like this is a time where we are being activated. Things are going on in the world that's getting us fired up, that's getting us passionate about change, and we are being activated. So a lot of us could be, in terms of life purpose, have been kind of dormant or in a state where we have been wondering, like, why am I here? What kind of change am I here to affect? That kind of thing. So if you've been questioning that, pay attention to what it is as a result of the energies that's going on in the world around you. That's maybe a way of getting you activated. And they told me that the idea of being activated also carries within it activism, like becoming an activist. So what is it that you're going to now become an activist for and support through activism? So I'm seeing that, and I almost left that out, and that was very important that I got reminded to put that in. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the leadership card back into the deck, and I'm going to shuffle the cards, and we're going to proceed with my normal way of doing these readings. So now I'm going to take the leadership card, and I'm going to put it back into the deck. And now I'm going to shuffle the cards. And as I do, I'm asking Spirit and the angels for the guidance that we need to have for the week ahead. Now I'm going to shuffle my other way. Now I'm going to cut the cards. I'm going to fan them out. And as I do, I'm going to pick 3. So I'm looking at the fan. I'm going to pick 3 cards that are calling out to me. And the first card always represents either something at the beginning of the week or the overall theme that we're being given information and guidance about. Then the second card can be something that we need to know about the middle of the week, or some form of direct guidance or advice we're being given from Spirit and the angels in relation to the first card. And then I'm looking at the fan one more time, and I'm going to draw the third card. And the third card is going to be either something we need to know to round out the week, or the possible outcome in relation to the first 2 cards. So having picked the 3 cards, I'm going to gather up the remainder of the deck. So I have 3 cards in front of me, and so we're going to read the cards left to right. So going with the first card. The first card is, I love this. So the first card is Oracle cards. So I'm going to go with this more of a theme. So I think for me personally, as the reader doing this video, I'm feeling like this is acknowledgement of the change in the way I'm presenting this week's video, and I think it's, for me, it's validation and confirmation about the information as I presented it. So that's how I'm looking at that. So it'll be very interesting to see what cards follow this. So now, aside from that, this card comes up when we are actually looking at ways that we receive divine guidance. So in particular, it could be, I'm an oracle card reader, so for me it's about like paying attention to the readings that I'm doing. And so as a reader, I'm feeling like it's important for me to pay attention to the readings that I either give for myself, that would be personal, direct guidance, or the information that's presented to me through my act of reading for someone else. So it's about like paying attention to that. It could also be like we are being asked to consider all forms of communication through various readers. So if you are prone to like looking at astrology videos or numerology videos, something that is a metaphysical science, but it's about tapping into the divine. It could be like pay attention to the forms of guidance that you're getting through either your own readings if you read cards or other people's readings. So I'm seeing that. The other thing, this could be an acknowledgement for those of you who may be either tarot card readers, angel card readers, Lenormand card readers, whatever the system is that you use in terms of card reading. It's about paying attention to the forms of guidance you're getting with that. And you could also be asked to consider the idea of, if you're reading for yourself, this could be acknowledgement of taking that one step further, and how can you be led to give readings for other people from the standpoint of empowerment. Now, if you remember, the leadership card was about taking charge of a situation, and being empowered and empowering other people. So how can you take your knowledge of whatever the divination system is that you use, and how can you use that in a way to empower other people? And as I'm saying that, it could be like you may be thinking, well, who am I to do that? Or you may be thinking like you don't have enough skill, you don't have enough knowledge, you don't have enough education, you need this certification, that certification. Remember that those are all forms of maybe delaying the inevitable. You're finding a way to keep yourself from putting yourself out there. So this could be about how can you work through those limiting beliefs and take the next step in putting yourself out there. So I'm reading the text, and the text says, you are able to discern answers and guidance for yourself and for others. So it could be just like I said, my normal mode of getting guidance was not usually about collective kind of energy. It's usually about personal and individual energy. What can we do as individuals? But in this particular regard, I was getting guidance that was hopefully inspiring and empowering to other people. So that's oracle cards. Moving into the next card, we have author. So could be for some of us watching this video in terms of what is it that we're called to do and how can we do it. The first was oracle cards. So there's a possibility of you are being called to help create change, help empower other people through reading cards. This next one, author, could be you are being called to put words to paper or to computer in this day and age, but you are meant to empower other people through the written word. So I'm seeing this and I'm looking at the image. So I'm looking at the image and there is a woman who is writing with her angel looking over her shoulder. So it could be not just about writing per se, but you could be getting guidance from your angels. And so it could be about like using your power of the written word to write down communication that you're receiving from your angels. I'm thinking of like automatic writing. So it could be like maybe in terms of the guidance you're being given, it comes right from the angels and you're being asked to be a channel and write that information. It could be inspirational reading, because now inspirational writing, I should say, instead of reading. But, you know, you're being called to be an inspirational writer. So I'm seeing that. Whatever the form is, we're being encouraged, because I said this could be about actual advice or guidance. We're being called to write down any forms of inspiration, guidance that we are getting. Write it down, because I'm a big believer in writing things down. Once it's black and white, you can see it clearly, and it's like getting it out of your head, and it's one step closer to taking some action on it. And here's the thing too, when you take the time to write down the guidance that you're getting from your angels, you get more of it, because you have just taken that guidance and formed a concrete step around it. So you could find yourself, as you continue to write it down, you continue to get more and more, because you're taking the next step. You're taking something that could be maybe ethereal, and you're making it more concrete, because you're taking the concrete action of writing it down. So I'm seeing that. So I'm going to read the text on the card. It says here, you have a book inside of you that wishes to be expressed. Make the time to write it. And as I'm reading the words, the word expressed comes out to me. So I think of creative expression. So when you're writing, if there is a particular message you feel compelled to share, what is the message? Who is the message for? It could be you working closely with Archangel Gabriel, who is the angel of messages and creativity and creative self-expression, and asking Archangel Gabriel for the right and perfect words. So I'm seeing that. You know, the idea here, even with our life and our life purpose, if we're looking at the bigger picture here, our life really has a story in it. You know, everybody has a story. Their life is their story. So if you want to take a look at your life in terms of your life purpose, what's the story of your life? Because your purpose is within that life story. So it could be like we're being asked to take a closer look at our life and our life story, and how can that inform us about what our purpose is. So I'm seeing that with author. And then moving to the last card. The final card is travel. So here it could be like, I'm seeing travel as, it could be literal travel, but I'm going to go more with the metaphorical sense of travel. So this again is about looking at our life stories and our life journey, and how is that going to inform us of our purpose, and how can we go about moving forward with that. And then travel with that is about like taking some progression. I see like progression, advancement, moving forward. I'm seeing that. The man on the card is sitting in an airport terminal. He's like, looks like he's in a waiting area. So it could be like, you know, being asked to, like, you've waited long enough, now's the time to get things going, because the plane is in the background, and that's about something taking flight, something of a venture, and getting that launched, you know, getting that going. So it's like you've waited, you've done the prep work, you've done what it is you need to get ready, so now's the time to like get this thing moving, get this thing going. So I'm seeing that. The interesting thing, he carries over a similar energy to the author card, because he's sitting working on his laptop. So it could be, this could be having to do with telecommunications. I'm seeing that with the laptop. So it could be about, you know, doing something on the internet, something about the world, because then the idea here with travel can sometimes be about seeing the world, but sometimes seeing the world through our laptop. So it's about like, how can you take your message and make it more global? And one of the ways could be like getting it on the internet. So if you have something to share through writing, it could be about like getting that online. One of the most common ways and the easiest ways to do that is to write a blog. So it could be like, maybe some of us are being called to start a blog, you know, or if we've had a blog, get back into our blog, you know, and getting people to see what our writing is. And if you have been a blog writer long enough, you may actually have a book. If you go back and look at a lot of your blog posts, you may be able to compile a whole lot of blog posts into a book. So I'm seeing that. I'm looking at here the other energy with the computer. So again, it could be another form of writing. So it could be just compiling the information. This one step about getting what it is that you have out of your head and start writing your book. if you're feeling called to do that. So I always look at that with the travel card. So I'm taking a step back. I'm going to read the text. It says here, your life purpose involves traveling. So again, like I said, it could be about actual travel. I'm going to go with the more metaphorical. It's about like taking what it is and launching something, getting something going, you know, taking some steps to progress in advance. But with him looking at the computer, it could be about like doing something online. So going back to the first card, if you're an angel card reader or a tarot card reader or something of that nature, it could be how can you talk about what it is that you're doing with your work with the cards online more. Could be maybe too if you're feeling deficient with your skill. I did say that. Maybe you find an online course that you could take that would help you become more skilled or give you the sense of being more skilled to present your work in the future. So that is the travel card, and that will be how I round out and end this week's reading. So as I sign off, I am James Himm Mitchell, and I want to first thank you for sharing the space here with me for this week's reading, and I look forward to sharing the same space with you again in our next reading together. So until then, I'm wishing you a wonderful day. I'm hoping that you have a wonderful week filled with love, light, and many angel blessings. Take care.